and welcome to GameBabble. I'm your host, Jell. It's no secret that the Wii is host to a lot of crappy budget titles. Games like Billy Wizard, Rocket Broomstick Racing, and Monster Trucks Arenas, or Ninja Bread Man. However, could there be one of these games that doesn't suck? Yes, Counterforce. Created by Carlo Perconti of French company HyperDevBox Japan, Counterforce was originally called X-Zeus and saw release on arcades as well as PS2 and PC. It's now been ported to Wii with a few slight changes and called, well, Counterforce. Why should you care? Because it's an on-rails shooter. And there were like 5 of those last console generation, and that's counting Kingdom Hearts Gummy Ships as a game, okay? That's how few of these we've had. Needless to say, fans of the genre are pretty desperate for a new game, and Counterforce kind of delivers. The graphics on Wii are actually worse than all previous versions of the game, and there's a few small hiccups. It's easy to point out the game's flaws. Things like, ships seeming to appear out of nowhere. It's not quite poppin', they just sort of appear really close to your ship, and coming in from the side, and the fact that the graphics suck and there's only 5 stages, and you could really beat the game in a half hour. What's surprising is the game's strong points. First of all, the controls are actually quite good. You use your Wii nunchuck like a flight stick, tilting it forward, back, up, and down to move your mech around screen. The Z button is your trigger to fire your standard shot, C button is your lock-ons for your missiles. Meanwhile, you use your Wiimote to point and shoot at things with your aimed shot. The movement window is actually surprisingly large, which is very important in an on-rails shooter, as that's what gives you, your freedom to move around. And there's actually really good weapon balance in the game, something that's quite surprising. I mean, think about a game like Panzer Dragoon. What do you use to kill everything? Use your lock-on lasers, that's what. And practically nothing else, because anything else is worthless. Counterforce is different, though, because you actually have uses for each of your weapons. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Your standard shot, for example, kinda sucks at first, but you grab a power-up and it becomes a 3 and then 5-way spread. Your aimed shot doesn't get any power-ups, but it can shoot at anything on screen. Your lock-on missiles come out slowly and have a limited amount of ammunition, but of course they're homing, making them great for cleanup. You have your charge laser, which is great for taking out bosses, and I really don't think I need to explain why you need screen-clearing bombs. The game is also surprisingly challenging. You basically have 5 lives to beat the game with, so you can only die once per stage. It's generally a surprisingly good game for the price. One of the best elements of the game, however, would have to be the music, described by one reviewer as mercilessly wailing guitars of godlike electro cheese. There really aren't better descriptions for the music. It's cheesy, but it's that good kind of cheesy. Now, the game isn't perfect. It's flawed, but it's fun. If you like on-rails shooters, I'd actually recommend hunting down a copy. The original price of $30 may be a bit much for such a short game. However, it is worth the money if you can find it for $20 or $15. I give the game a 3.2 out of 5. It's actually pretty good. Now, random guys in France who moved to Japan aren't the only ones creating halfway decent budget titles for the Wii. There's also Sega with Ghost Squad. Ghost Squad is currently the best light gun game on Wii, and thanks to things like calibration, as well as a well-thought-out reloading system, and the ability to turn off the targeting sight, Ghost Squad really recreates the light gun game feel even if you don't have a Wii Zapper. Now, the game is short, it's only 3 stages long. However, it has branching paths and a lot of different sub-objectives, like shooting down helicopters with a missile launcher or being stealthy. More than that, though, it has an interesting level-up system. As your character levels up, you gain access to new costumes and weapons. And as stages level up, you unlock more paths and things become more difficult as well on existing paths. This creates a game that can be replayed over and over again if you really like your light gun games. It also has a 4-player party mode as well as Wi-Fi high scoreboards. And one thing I'd like to actually point out that I really like is the ability to turn off your targeting sight. because if you do that, you actually score double points. So it's not just handicapping yourself. I really like that. It was a nice touch. My only complaint is that you can't play through the main level-upping game with 4 people. That's limited to 2. Still, it's a great game if you like light gun games. I can't recommend it enough. I'm going to give that a 3.7 out of 5. It's actually quite nice and $30 well spent. Of course, just because it's a company you're familiar with doesn't mean their discount game is going to be any good. Such is the case with Midway's Cruisin'. Now, of course, you hear the name and you think, oh, Cruisin', like Cruisin' USA. I love those games. No, that's not what this is. Actually, it's a port of the arcade Fast and the Furious game, believe it or not. A really crappy port. I mean, Counterforce back there may not look great, but this just looks like shit. I mean, the N64 Cruisin' games look better than this. The game itself is chock full of technical issues, too. There's frame rate problems, there's horrible pop-up. It's a mess. There's really no excuse for that when the game doesn't even look as good as some N64 games, okay? This is the Wii we're talking about. The gameplay is at least mildly enjoyable. You see, rather than racing normally, how you win in this game is through doing tricks. You see, by double tapping the accelerator, you'll do a wheelie, and if you ram into a car while doing a wheelie, you'll do a car vault, which launches you into the air. This is going to be your primary means of getting ahead of your opponent. I am not even kidding. However, I have to admit it's actually kind of fun doing this. But only kind of fun. Because, really, the Cruisin' games like Cruisin' USA, those are better. So is Rush. So is a lot of games. I'm gonna be nice, and since I had a bit of fun, I'll give it a 2 out of 5, but I really can't recommend this game. However, I'd also like to point one other thing out. Lords of Thunder was just released on Virtual Console, and that is the most metal game of all time. And it's only $8. If you haven't played Lords of Thunder yet, pick it up. Just trust me on this one. It's honestly a better purchase than all of these games. I mean, I like Counterforce more than I really should. But damn, that's Lords of Thunder. Anyway, this is Gel from GameBabble, signing out.